Hi everyone. We're going to get started in just a second. I'm just waiting, just making sure everyone's in here.
Go do it, or I can kick it off.
I think I'm having internet problems. Can you hear me? Oh, yep, everyone can hear me. Okay, sorry guys, had a bit of a problem there. Hi again, really sorry about that. I think my internet might have dropped in and out for a second. Hopefully we don't have any more problems. Okay, we're going to get started. Thomas, just making sure that you can hear me.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, sorry about that. I'm going to share my screen, just making sure again, Tom, that you can see that once it comes up.
Yeah.
Perfect. 2 seconds. I'm just going to make sure I've got everything set up properly, and we'll get straight into it. Okay, great. Let's kick off. Tom, if there's any problems with the connection, just pop me a message.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So welcome, guys. Thank you so much for attending. Again, this is a number 2, so we're doing content today. I want to thank everyone for the feedback that we received for the first webinar that we put on around technical SEO. We've had some great feedback. Really appreciate it. Definitely looking towards seeing how we can improve these, and any feedback that you guys do provide, we definitely will take on board and look to improve what we do here. It's definitely an adjustment for us, particularly me. When we've been doing a lot of these training sessions, obviously face to face with you. or in a room full of people, and then we've had to adjust, I guess, with COVID going on, and we're at a point now where I guess I've had to present these over Zoom, and I'm sort of talking to myself for 2 hours. So definitely been an adjustment, as I'm sure it has been for everyone else. So any feedback is great, and we'll definitely take that on board. We'll get into it. So very quick agenda for today. We've tried to keep this relatively high level again. We've got a broad range of audience here today. So a lot of you may not be from marketing background, again, may not have a lot to do with the websites or content, but may just have a general interest in SEO. So we've tried to keep this quite broad and try to appeal to a broader audience, I guess. So today we'll be talking again about why SEO. We're going to repeat this session. We did a little bit, well, we did do this in the last webinar, but just for the benefit of you who were not in that session. We're going to talk about keyword research, the process of identifying keywords that you want to rank for. Then we're going to go straight into content. We're really just going to try and break down content into 2 areas for today: website content and more editorial content. And if we have enough time, we'll try and go into some case studies. We've got a relatively big deck, 80 slides to go through. So we'll sort of see how it goes with towards the end. If we have time, we'll go through that. Otherwise, we'll be sharing the deck so that you can go through those case studies at the end. So really quickly, just about me. I'm obviously the speaker today. 18 years of digital marketing experience. I originally started off as a web developer, writing software applications, and then kind of migrated and moved into digital advertising. I come from a relatively large agency background, working on some large brands, and I would say, obviously, in recent times I've really gotten into data science, and particularly around machine learning and artificial intelligence. So that's kind of my area of passion at the moment. I'm also going to introduce, or let Tom introduce himself real quickly. So Tom's going to be our panelist today and will be helping out.
Hi guys, my name is Tom. I look after our operations at Indago. I am helping Peter with his presentation today. We've got loads of content to get through, so I'm going to make sure that we don't run over and we get through as much as we possibly can. I think the key thing that we'd love to do is try and make this as interactive as possible. Peter will put up some polls throughout the presentation, but in addition to that, if you look at the bottom bar on your screen on the window that you're looking through, you'll see there's a Q&A button. And if you click the Q&A button, you can ask questions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer some of those questions through text, or I might also bring up some of those questions and ask Peter if he can kind of explain it to the group as well. But yeah, we'd love to see hear any questions as we're kind of going through. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Tom. And just really quickly, just a reminder that we do a lot of these training sessions across the industry bodies. We are regularly putting on training for clients. So if that at all interests you, please reach out to your client managers and we'll definitely organize that. And we are quite involved in various different universities. So yeah, just good to know, I guess. As Tom mentioned, today the webinar will definitely be available after the session. Just like last time, a link will be posted and you'll be able to get access to the recording and material. There are various different tools again and links that will be in the presentation that will be available to post this webinar. We will be running a couple of polls just like last time. I do encourage you to fill those out. There's always some really interesting findings out of these polls. And it just kind of helps open up the people's understanding in terms of where everyone is in the group, I guess. And yeah, like Tom mentioned, questions, please feel free to ask any questions through the system there. Tom will be answering questions along the way. I will definitely be making a conscious effort to kind of pause and look and see if there are any kind of questions that need addressing throughout the slides.
Just a quick note on the polls. The polls are not anonymous today, so just in case.
Okay, great. All right, so very quickly, we're going to talk about why SEO, just more again for the benefit of those of you that are kind of new to search engine optimization. And kind of talk about it very quickly. So, yeah, so traditional advertising. If you think about broadcast TV, generally will aim to sort of target a very large audience. You can imagine back in the day of TV adverts, you know, it's very hard to kind of, you know, people are less receptive, I guess. You're generally interrupting them during a time where they're not really looking to engage with you, I guess. Few have a current need at a very given time. So again, very hard to kind of engage your audience at times, I guess. And again, very even fewer can be activated to you know, to engage with your brand, make a purchase, or kind of do something. SEO, in my mind, is quite unique and quite special in that regard, in the sense that people are telling us through the search engine, through the search queries, what they're looking for and what information that they're looking to find. So they're telling us that they're looking for a plumber, they're looking for an SEO agency, and that's generally a really good time to you know, be there, I guess. So I think most people understand that. We didn't present this last time, but I thought it was quite important to add in as well. SEO can also be seen as a capture channel. So if anyone's familiar with Rhonda and Katup, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, but there was an advertising campaign put on by Amy, if anyone remembers those adverts. Quite funny. If you search that in, this is a tool called Google Trends, which we'll explore today as well. But if you put in that search term into Google Trends, you can actually see when that advert or when that advertising campaign kind of launched and was most prevalent, I guess. And you can kind of see that, you know, if that advertising campaign was successful or resonated with people. So SEO can often be seen as a capture channel. And I thought it was quite interesting. This is the news. This is relatively recent. People are still searching for it. So this has come out of Google Keyword Planner, which we're going to talk about today as well, which you can type in keywords and actually get search volumes out of. So the amount of people searching for particular queries. And you can definitely see with that particular advertising campaign that people are still searching for those adverts. Just a reminder again that Google does obviously have an algorithm, and it's changed over time, and over time Google releases algorithm updates. We explored this in the first session. We looked at a couple of these algorithms in a little bit more detail. The important thing to understand in today's session is that some algorithm updates along the way were particularly targeted towards content. I'm going to really quickly skim over these just to kind of understand what Google's done over time to kind of improve the search quality in terms of its algorithm and how that's kind of related to content. So the most famous algorithm update around content was an update called Panda. This is one of the first ones that Google pulled out back in 2011. It was mainly targeted around trying to clean up the search results around spammy type of content, I guess. So things like duplicate content, plagiarism, thin content. Thin just means, you know, not very informative or not a lot of information, I guess. User-generated keyword stuffing, and just in general poor user experience. They rolled this out because they started to see that the search results could be quite easily manipulated through doing this sort of tactics. And Google kind of got a bit smarter with the way it kind of evaluates content. So that started in 2011, and they constantly, well, at some point they announced that they're in the background always updating this algorithm update. A little bit more recent was one called RankBrain. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail into this one, but essentially this is a machine learning algorithm that helps understand, I guess, the contextual meaning behind keywords. So an example there in that slide, if you have a look at the word crane, it could have multiple meanings, I guess. Google's got a lot better understanding the contextual meaning behind that search term when you put it into the search engine. So that could involve things like, you know, previous search experiences, the words that you use around the keyword, and that sort of stuff. Machine learning, artificial intelligence has really come a long way recent times. So Google obviously, you know, is the leader at the forefront of that science. So they can do a lot with that. The other one was BERT, which is you know, sort of similar sort of concept to RankBrain. I'm not going to try and pronounce it, but it's another machine learning algorithm there. And again, aimed again at kind of understanding the intent behind keywords. So if you look at the example there in the slide, you know, can you get medicine for someone, pharmacy? You can kind of, after that algorithm update, Google's results for that query changed, and it was able to understand the precise intent behind what you're trying to do with that query, and the queries changed, and the results changed. And you can see that in that example, it yields a much better search result. And again, remember, Google's primary aim with this is to enhance the experience for the user. If you were going to Google and making searches and, you know, you weren't getting the right result, or it wasn't kind of yielding what you're looking for, you know, you would stop using it, or you might look somewhere else. So Google's always tried to be at the forefront of this, and hence why they are the leader. They do a great job at doing this. I'm just going to quickly check if we've got any questions come through.
No, we're all good, dude.
We're all good? Great. All right, we're going to go into keyword research. So what's keyword research? If you've ever done SEO with anyone or with us, you would have come across this process. Essentially, it is the process of identifying or researching the keywords that you would like to rank for, or you would be most beneficial to rank for. And we're going to talk at a very high level, you know, what that process involves and how you might go about doing your own keyword research when you're kind of planning your content and trying to understand, I guess, the keywords that you want to rank for that content. So we're going to run a poll. So I'm just going to try and get that up because I can't see it on my screen. But while I'm doing that, just have a quick read of this. We're looking at Google Ads. So Google Ads, if you remember from the first webinar, we've got the Google paid search results, and then we've got the SEO results. We're talking about the paid search results here. And they're the ones that you have to pay per click. So when you look at these keywords here, try and guess which ones are the most expensive to buy or bid on. I'm going to try and launch that poll real quickly. Let me find out how to do that. Tom, I can't see the option for some reason. Do you have it on yours by any chance? Tom, can you hear me?
Yeah, I do not, but you should have in your meeting controls.
Yep, I found it.
Yes.
Oh, good. Yep.
Launch from there, dude.
Launch poll. All right, everyone should be able to get onto that poll.
Confirming we can see it.
Cool, just waiting for those results to come through. All right, I'm just going to end that. I'm going to share the results. Can you see the results, Tom?
Yep.
Great. So 21% said life insurance. Well, you guys can see the results there. I won't read them out. The leader was online betting. So I think this can be a bit of an eye-opener for some people, particularly when some people don't realize that there's paid search results in the Google results, and that every click costs money. So let's go through and get the answers to these. Oops, sorry. So SEO agency Sydney, that's $29 a click. So in the paid search results, every time someone searches SEO agency Sydney and someone clicks on it, on average, they're paying about $29. I'm going to quickly open these up. The leader is life insurance at $152 cost per click. When we run this session, this training on in person, a lot of people get very surprised as to how much people advertisers are paying per click for a keyword like this. And looking at the cost per click costs, I guess you can start to understand a lot about an industry, particularly around when you look at something like life insurance, where I guess the profit margins can be quite big, and there's, I guess, a lot of money. Some of you might ask, why would someone be willing to pay $152 per click for a keyword? And the simple answer will be is because these advertisers are measuring it down to the click and are able to measure the cost per acquisition or cost per sale.
Peter, I think something just to add there around life insurance, it's also a high value product. It's got low churn, and insurers will use life insurance to then cross and upsell different insurance products as well. So I think that's why we see such competition and such high CPCs in that area. Yeah, definitely.
But you can tell a lot by looking at the cost per click in terms of competition, the value of it. It's definitely not a metric that I would be, sort of resting your hat on in terms of, oh, well, this is, a keyword gets high CPC over another one, we should go after it. But it definitely helps you understand the value of it, I guess. Cool, we'll move on. So it's also very important to understand the keyword intent. So we've got three keywords here. And, we already looked at life insurance. It was about, what was it? My memory is right, about 153, right? But what you'll probably find surprisingly is that life insurance quotes yields a higher cost per click. It's definitely changed over time. Maybe about 5 years ago, we probably would have been reverse to this, but the more kind of generic queries would cost more. But what advertisers have kind of realized over time is that the more specific or closer to the sales funnel the query is, the higher cost per the lower the cost per acquisition. So in this instance, life insurance quote yields a higher cost per click because it has a tendency to return better. And the intent is very clear that I'm looking to purchase a policy. Here you've got a very kind of traditional marketing funnel, and SEOs would use this quite a bit, but it works the same way. The more broader the word, the more kind of awareness it's kind of generating, and it's less kind of specific. And the more specific, I guess, the word gets, the closer towards kind of a sale you get to, or a specific kind of outcome. This is a very broad way of looking at it, but you can kind of understand, looking at this, that life insurance quote is closer to this vicinity than up here, and hence why people are spending more on it. Another way you can look at it is this search demand curve. This is a broad way of looking at it, and it definitely has changed over time. So a lot of SEOs will refer to head tail terms and long tail terms. Essentially, it just means that more specific the word or the keyword, the longer tail it is, and the more kind of specific the intent is. Now, back in the day, these terms, the head tail terms, are a lot more, they cost a lot more, and everyone wanted them. And the long tail terms costed less. But nowadays, everything costs a lot because the popularity of digital advertising, I guess, and being on Google. You generally will get a higher volume for the long tail terms, and that's just because it's broader. People don't know what they want. I could be looking for hotels, but I'm looking for hotel reviews. There's no connotation about where I'm looking to book a hotel, that sort of thing. And obviously, the more specific I get, the lower the volume gets, because the intent is much more targeted. Generally speaking, the difficulty is lower down here in terms of ranking. Again, it's not a hard and fast rule, but there's less people competing in the search results when it becomes a lot more specific. And we generally will find that you will yield a better conversion rate down here. It's also very important to be looking at voice search, because I'm sure everyone is aware of recent times, and all the voice devices or speaker devices that you have on your phones and in home nowadays. So this is a study that's come from VoiceBot. So we're going to present some stats around that. Essentially, what we can see here is, and what we know as of 2019, roughly about 1/4 of Australian adults have a speaker device in their home. And Tom, correct me if I'm wrong. I forgot the context around this, but is this 20% of all queries on Google are a voice search?
20% of queries, yes. When they're on its mobile app or on an Android device, yes.
Yeah, cool. So that's massive, right? So definitely, when we're looking at queries, search terms, you definitely want to be considering voice, and definitely these days, from when we do SEO for clients, we generally look at voice as more of a future-proof tactic, because we can only see this space getting bigger and bigger as time goes on. Out of that, and particularly in Australia, it seems to be, out of that percentage that I mentioned earlier, it's about 70% is a Google Home device. So Google seems to dominate it. I think in America, Amazon, Alexa has a much bigger share. Oh, I think I skipped the slide there. Give me a second. No. Everyone's probably come across one of these search results on Google. So the people also asked. This is where you pop in this query, and you see related questions to that query, and you can click through and get the answers. This is actually where Google's getting its answers to the questions that people are talking to into their devices. So 52% coming from the organic results when it comes to Google. And feature snippet just means we explored feature snippets in the previous technical SEO session, but this has got to do a lot with structured data. So it's all coming from organic search. At the moment, there's no kind of paid element, so you can't bid on this. You can't kind of pay to be in the kind of like the voice answer results, if you will. So it's all organic. So it's a very big area to kind of like be considering, I guess. Again, this comes from voicebot.ai. If you look at that quarter of the Australian adult population, some big stats here. About 42% of that kind of that population are using their devices to ask a question daily. So again, some pretty big numbers there. So we'll talk about keyword research and what it kind of involves. I'm not going to kind of talk about sort of very specific ways of doing keyword research, more kind of the methodology. The aim of this would be hopefully that you have enough information and then be able to understand where to go to kind of get this data. But essentially, keyword research is the process of collecting data, and as much data as you can, essentially. And depending on your website, who your users are, what type of, I guess, advertising you're doing, and what type of data you're collecting will obviously will obviously change what type of data you can get. So a lot of what SEOs do when they do keyword research is centralizing data and trying to get as informed as they can in terms of around the specific keywords that they're trying to target, I guess. So I'll talk about examples of that. So in your Google Analytics on your website, if you have a search function, you can actually track the keywords or the words or the searches that people are making on your website. And that can give you a very good understanding as to what type of words people are using, the type of content they're looking for. If you have any kind of holes in the type of content that you provide, I guess, or information that you provide. You can also get through analytics information about your audience. So things like age demographics, gender, that type of thing. So you can kind of understand, the sentiment, I guess, or how you should be writing your content, who it should be appealing to. So if you don't have, we spoke about analytics last time, but if you don't have analytics, definitely need to get it set up. It's a free tool, and I'd be surprised anyone having a website doing anything significant on the net that wouldn't have a analytics product installed on their website. So you need to kind of find out how to get access to that. The Keyword Planner is a tool that you can find through Google Ads. We'll talk about it in a second in terms of, I'll give you a bit of a walkthrough as to how to get to it and all that. But essentially, it's not a paid for tool, but you will need to have a Google Ads account to get access to it. And unfortunately, in order to get a Google Ads account, you will need to pop a credit card in there, but you don't necessarily need to spend any money. So if you need help kind of finding out how to get access to that, or just need more information, pop me an email. I'll be more than happy to kind of point you in the right direction. But essentially, it's a tool that you use for Google Ads to understand things like volumes. I should actually put in here things like cost per click, how much a potential keyword would cost, seasonality, that sort of thing. I'll do a bit of a walkthrough on that in a second. Other data sources that you, that's kind of leads into paid search. So paid search is obviously if you're doing any paid advertising. This is actually really critical. If you are doing paid advertising, so you are bidding on keywords, you're actually doing Google Ads, you can actually get conversion data around your keywords or queries. This is very important because you can understand the queries that do convert. So if you're selling a product or trying to get inquiries, that sort of thing, you'd want to understand which keywords yield the highest conversion rate. You can't actually track that on the organic results. Google kind of closed that door going back about 5-6 years ago. But you can track it on the paid search side. So if you've got that data, it will definitely help you assist in terms of identifying the highest converting words and which ones you need to be ranking for and kind of covering, if that makes sense. You can also understand not just which ones convert, but which ones assist in converting, i.e. were part of the conversion journey, maybe didn't kind of result in a last click conversion, but may have resulted in a first click in terms of opening up the conversation. Search Console. We explored Search Console in the first session. There's a performance tab in there, which I'll be diving into today. That's where you can get information around, queries that rank, which ones are generating clicks, the click-through rate, that sort of stuff. So we're going into that. And any paid search tools. Now there's a whole array of paid search tools that you can definitely pay for, and that will give you additional data around keywords. Data such like, or metrics like difficulty. Difficulty is like measuring, or how competitive is a keyword in terms of trying to rank for it. And often these tools will analyze, well, who ranks there? What does their backlink profile look like? How long have they been there? And essentially, how much value does that website have? That will raise the difficulty score. Search features, so things like, well, for a particular query, what type of features come up? Is it videos, images, questions, that sort of thing? And that can give you a lot of, I guess, understanding around what type of content you should be looking at when you're trying to target those particular keywords. And then, information about your competitors as well. So we're just going to quickly run another poll. So the Keyword Planner is a great tool, but I'm kind of curious to understand if anyone has used it. And yeah, just sort of see if we can get some stats on these questions here. I'm going to quickly run that. Just confirming everyone can see that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm going to end that. I'm going to post the results. Okay, so the majority of you said that you have never used it. No idea if you have access to it. I'll do a quick demo on how to use it real quickly. I won't go into a lot of detail just for the interest of time. We've got a lot to go through. Definitely probably one of the best ways to kind of get free information about keywords, I guess. So yeah, I'm going to quickly just make sure I don't have a, yeah. So Tom, just making sure that you can still see my screen now.
Yeah, Google Trends.
Yeah, cool. So we're going to go into the Keyword Planner. So again, there will be a link in the deck to sort of how to get to this, but you will need a Google Ads account to get access to the Keyword Planner. So once you get a Google Ads account, you'll see it up here in the tools section. You'll be able to find it through here. This is constantly changing, unfortunately. There it is, Keyword Planner. That's how you get access to it. Yeah, again, this does constantly change. So they have made some modifications in recent times. So if you've seen it before or used it before and you're kind of looking at this and going, well, what's this? It's changed quite a bit recently. So you kind of got two areas here: discover new keywords or get search volumes. So if you're doing more of a discovery type thing, you're trying to kind of put what they call a seed keyword or a starter keyword and trying to understand what keywords around that you could potentially target. You could go down this road, or if you're just looking to get purely volumes and forecast, that sort of thing, you could go down this road. We'll just do a discovery. You generally want to make sure you've got the location stuff set up, but yeah, you can just do, I'm just going to do SEO just for argument's sake. Put that in. And you'll see what happens here is Google will give you a whole bunch of related keywords to the query you put in. You'll get some average monthly searches. Now, depending, I believe, if you're spending money or not with Google, you might be able to get more specific search volumes. So you'll see here, these are ranges, 10K to 100K. However, I think I do know that actually if you're spending money with Google, they might open this up a little bit to be a bit more kind of rounded in terms of the average value there. But you can still get an idea as to how popular a keyword is through the average monthly searches here. Competition is mainly around paid search, because this is a paid search tool. So I wouldn't really be relying on that, but you can definitely get some understanding around cost per clicks here as well. And obviously you can get related search terms, so you can kind of click through here and go deeper and research various different topics and or areas within kind of a broader area. You obviously want to make sure that you've got your location set up correctly, because search volumes and related searches will change based on location of the targeted user. And yeah, I'm not sure, Tom, if I've missed anything there. If you would add anything, I feel like
no, I think that's good. I think there have been some frustrating changes with the keyword planner. It's definitely a very, very valid tool, and certainly for free, it's great. Because the account we're using here is the Indago account, and we don't advertise much on Google for our own business. It gives very wide and broad average monthly search volumes. If you're spending money on Google, you do get slightly better data within the Google Keyword Planner. I guess that'd be the only thing I'd add.
Yeah, cool. Cool. Thanks, Tom. All right, I'm going to move on. Unless there's any questions by any chance, we'll just do a quick look.
No, we're all good. I've just been answering a couple.
Awesome. Okay, great. All right, so we'll continue on. Categorizing by themes. So a lot of SEOs will group related keywords into buckets of categories or themes, as we like to call them. You can see here, this is an example for one of our clients who are they provide experiences out of New Zealand. They've got quite an array of experiences. And we can see here we've got themes like activities in New Zealand, snow and ice activities, aerial activities, water activities, and you can kind of see the related search terms. And generally what we want to do is just kind of understand, well, what are the, around this topic or theme, what are the popular keywords, kind of bucket them. What that allows us to do is, one, kind of allows us to measure them in kind of like an aggregated fashion, if that makes sense. And it also allows us to understand the various different ways people are searching around a particular topic or focus area. Obviously, everyone is different and everyone will have different ways of searching. So it's really good to kind of understand, how do we kind of capture that in the type of content that we're creating, I guess. A lot of us will use Excel, and we used to do this, well, we still do this to an extent, but we'll populate all our keywords into an Excel doc, and we'll categorize them and subcategorize them. And the categorization when you're working with an SEO agency can get quite intricate, in the sense that we sometimes will further categorize to keywords to, in this instance will be a geographical location. So here we've got geo Sydney, and it will be any keyword that has the word Sydney in it. And what that allows us to do is I guess, label our data so that we can very easily, using either Excel or any other kind of data visualization program, I guess, to kind of visualize what's going on in terms of opportunities and measurement. You can see the example of that here. If you've worked with us, you'll know that we're quite big on using Tableau. So this is just an example report where we've got a bubble chart. This was for, I believe, a client, a supermarket client. We related their keywords into, I guess, product types, so fruits, proteins, which would be meats and chickens and beef and all that sort of stuff, and then vegetables. So a lot of the keywords will be bucketed into those categories. And then what we would do is we would match data based out of Google Analytics based to those products, and understand the revenue and the potential conversion score that they've yielded to kind of understand where the biggest opportunities are. This is a very specific example. I probably would have liked to have had a bit of a more broader example in here, but essentially what we're doing here is if you go back one, that's all that this is. It's just basically table data that we've categorized all our keywords, we've added our metrics into, and we visualized it to kind of understand where the opportunities might lie. Cool. I'm just going to really quickly check if we've got any more questions before we go into the next segment.
All good, mate.
Perfect. All right, understanding content. So another poll. What does content mean to your business? So why do you build content? I'm going to quickly run that poll. Okay, should be coming through now.
Yeah, I can see it.
Cool. Cool, I'm just going to end that and share the results. I think that's great. 62% increased brand visibility. I think that's definitely a primary reason why you would want to build content. I think to say for SEO, depending on the way you look at it, definitely SEO should kind of be a byproduct of great content. You know, you want to rank for it, obviously, but you generally want to build content or create content to kind of promote your brands and engage an audience. So I think that's a great answer. Tom, would you add anything to that by any chance?
Yeah, I think it's always tricky with content and measuring, and we're going to talk a minute, I think, Peter, about the measurability and then how we do that. And I think that's the tricky thing about content is we sometimes see such wonderful content projects out there. There's been a huge amount of planning gone into it and a huge amount of thought, and then there's not often a lot of measurability and I guess learning from that content so that it can be applied to new projects.
Yeah, cool. Cool, thanks. We'll go on. So on-site keyword targeting. So we sort of talked about keyword groups, understanding keyword intent. This is a very broad way of looking at a website. I don't really think everyone will fall exactly into this sort of framework, but most websites will be roughly structured this way. You'll have obviously have a home page, have some sort of categories or categorization, if you will, in terms of your services, products, offering. If you're an e-com store, you definitely will have categorization. Most of you will have search. At a lower level, you might have more specific product pages, service pages, or location pages. Again, just an example. And generally, the bulk of your site will be more around, I guess, informative content, educational content, blogs. I don't really like using the word blogs, but most people will know what I'm talking about when I say blogs.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
And that's my Google Home going haywire. So that's technology going wrong. Sorry. So yeah, blogs, forums, FAQs, help and education. So this is where a lot of SEOs will see the foundations of a website from an SEO campaign be built up. We're going to talk about authority and trust in a second. This is where you build that down here. Oops, sorry. I've done a mistake there. My computer's gone haywire. Sorry, 1 second. All right, cool. So keyword targeting. So when we look at keywords, generally your home page will rank for your brand and your hero terms. It's quite funny that, you know, a lot of the times you might not even target a keyword in terms of in the content specifically to a particular keyword, but Google understands that you're an authority figure for a particular keyword and will rank your home page for that query. It's just an example. It doesn't always happen that way, but generally your home page is more of a capture-all, very broad keyword type targeting type thing. And obviously, as you kind of go lower down, the more kind of specific queries you will rank for. So within your categories, you might have, you know, in our example, we may have an SEO page on our website. We definitely do have an SEO page. That's where you'd like to probably see your SEO agency targeted and page ranking. To go more specific, if you do have a more specific layer, you know, we might be targeting a service called SEO site migration services. That's a very long tail term. We're very specific page there about what we do there, how we can help you, you know, the service on offer there. And then if you think about, we definitely do have a blog. This is where a lot of the longer tail terms will come in. So an example of that will be a blog post around SEO migration SEO migration best practice guide. You know, that'll be a very detailed post about how to migrate a website, going from a new to an old website maybe. And in order to rank for that, you know, I did a lot more detailed post around that. And obviously, spread across. Oh, sorry, my computer's gone haywire again. Spread across this range, the quality and the type of, you know, what you do for content would definitely change. It's always important to have a purpose. Again, this is a very broad way of looking at it, but generally the homepage will be a catch-all, more branding. Think about a homepage, general intention is to kind of navigate users. Categories and search results, again, primary focus there will often be navigation, but maybe more around informing people or helping them. So I'm looking for an SEO agency, but what am I specifically looking for? Or maybe I'm looking for a digital agency, but I don't know if I want SEO. I need, you know, I'm looking for a data analytics provider, or maybe I'm looking for a paid search provider, that sort of thing. Around this area is definitely more around selling. You know, I'm looking for a specific service, or I'm looking to inform my users. And in here, it's more about education, links. We're going to talk about EAT, which stands for expert, authority, and trust. This is where you want to build that authority down here. And a lot of the times when you're building a website or trying to architect a website, should be the IA rather than the AI, that's a typo, but you generally want to be planning your website around that. So trying to understand, well, what keywords can I target, or what topics can I kind of target to specific areas, and how should I structure my website? And that's the practice of building an information architecture, which can get quite convoluted depending on the size of your product and you know, what you're trying to achieve, I guess, for your SEO.
Peter, just a quick question for you. we've had a question around where do content pillars fit into, I think it's probably referring to your previous slide. So could you just talk around how you do like content pillars or content hubs do, how sub pages work within that? So the example given here is, would the SEO agency page be your pillar content, and then the SEO migration a sub page? And then just if you've got any thoughts on how detailed or long pillar content should be.
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. I think obviously, very broadly speaking, we find that hub pages or hubs work really well. So yeah, I definitely think that you would have an SEO page, which would be kind of like your center pillar around SEO. You may obviously be very centered around the SEO services that we offer, but you'd also kind of want to be pulling in information around your blog around SEO in there, maybe top posts that come out of your SEO section of your blog. You may, I don't know, have a forum that has a subtopic within SEO, and then kind of pull that in there. So generally speaking, that and again, you'd want to be looking at your analytics, understand where your users, how your users are using your website, and but generally speaking, creating a content hub or pillar around a center topic is generally a good idea. Yeah.
And any kind of comment on how long pillar content would be like? Do you know, is longer better? What would you kind of suggest there?
I think in terms of the section itself, it's interesting. I think obviously you'd want to cover a subject as in detail as possible as you can. You'd want to look at what the competition's doing and what's ranking there. For more the editorial side of things, we definitely see the longer form content ranking a lot better. More kind of up here, it depends. So if you were kind of looking at an SEO service page, well, generally people want to, if you think about the audience there, they generally want to kind of understand, what can you do for me? What's the process involved? How much does it cost? That sort of thing. So, length may not be as important as the experience to getting to the information. So it kind of depends on the individual page itself. I'm not sure if I answered that the best, or if that was kind of the intent.
No, that's cool. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Timing-wise, we're just under halfway through at just over halfway time, dude. So going well timing-wise. But I think you've got a few demos coming up in the second half, so you might have to just push on slightly faster.
Perfect. Yeah, no problem. And I'm not sure who asked that question, but if you're kind of looking to get into more detail around it, definitely pop me an email, give me a call, and we can have a bit of a chat about it. Because it is a bit of a, I guess, open-ended question in terms of, everyone will have very specific scenarios there. Cool. All right, so we're going to talk about on-site content, optimizing on-site content. So we're talking about things like, product pages, category pages, guides, testimonials, that sort of thing. So stuff that sits on your website. And then when you think about content that sits on your website, we've obviously got blogs and articles and editorial in there. We're going to save that for the second section of this webinar, because it is such a specific area to SEO. So we're going to kind of tackle that separately, if that makes sense. So we talked about the poll in terms of why you build content. I definitely think the outcome there was great. I think the main thing there I probably forgot to mention is that you always want to have a goal. If you're building a page or writing up doing anything related to content, you really want to understand what your goal there is. Again, if you looked at the pillars there in terms of content, you had a product page. Generally, your biggest goal there will be around conversions and rankings. Again, I sort of mentioned when we're going to talk about blog, but if you were, just in the context of this, if you were kind of looking at editorial content, sometimes your goal will be more centered around traffic. If I was talking about a guide to migrating a website in that context, well, that may be more around, trying to educate and build authority around the industry. Maybe my goal there will be about trying to drive more traffic and or bring people into my kind of conversion funnel, sign up to my newsletter, or ask a question, or that sort of thing. So understanding the goal is really, really important, and having primary and secondary goals clearly laid out before you kind of start is very important. How do you measure engaged traffic? That can be quite challenging at times. We'll talk about analytics in a second. I think we'll do a bit of a demo, but things like bounce rate, time on site, that sort of thing will be very important. Sometimes when you're building content, you may be building it for the purpose of building backlinks. I don't like using the word building, but definitely acquiring or attracting links. So how do you measure that? We'll talk about that a bit later on. Looking at search engines versus users. So we talked about the algorithm updates there around Panda. Google rolled that out because, a lot of people were trying to seek the search engines, and particularly they were building content specifically for the search engine rather than the user itself. And we will always advise clients to be building content for the user. At the end of the day, Google's always trying to understand what is best for the user. Its algorithm is always geared towards the user. So we generally will say that if you're building for the user and your content is good for a user, Google will then kind of pass that down through understanding what's going on with its algorithm. That kind of makes sense. So characteristics of poor quality content, things like duplicate pages, keyword stuffing. So you're trying to rank for a keyword and you're just stuffing it in your page everywhere, and it doesn't read well, it doesn't make sense. Generally, you want to kind of definitely, generally you always want to stay away from that. Poor grammar, spelling, that sort of stuff. So I don't think this will come to as a surprise to anyone, but generally anything that doesn't appeal to a user will be in this kind of bad category. Characteristics of high quality content, again, no surprise to anyone. Organized, consistent, page structure, free of spelling mistakes. The use of subheadings, it kind of goes back to structure. Having your content well organized, I guess, and it will change depending on the type of content you're doing or type of pages you're doing. Keywords, using keywords sparingly and kind of more in kind of context. And relevant references to backlinks and internal backlinks, that sort of thing. We'll talk about that in a second. I wanted to really quickly touch on this, because I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. So Google has this thing called a search quality guideline. It's a 200-page document, so there's a link down there. Knock your heart out if you want to kind of have a read. It definitely is, a good read, but most of you probably won't go through the effort. But I think it's kind of important to understand what it is and how we can kind of use what's in it to kind of better our content. So the search quality guideline is a document that was originally intended to be given to the search quality raters at Google employees. What happens at Google in terms of SEO is, in terms of the organic search results, Google's constantly trying to improve the search results. And the search quality raters will look at the search results for obviously millions, hundreds of thousands of queries. So all they do is search all day, look at the results, what ranks there, and kind of evaluate whether or not that result is good or not, and what could change or what should be there that's not there. And they'll rate them. And they'll rate it based on these guidelines out of this search quality guideline document. So the employees will be very familiar with this document. So if you ever kind of want to understand what makes good quality content, you generally would want to go through this document, at least through its guidelines. But one of the things that was introduced into that document was the concept of EAT and YMYL. There's a lot of info on the net about this. There's a good link here that kind of talks about it. EAT stands for expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. It's a mouthful. And essentially, the quality raters will look at the results and understand, have a level of, is it E? You know, is the result have elements of this: expertise, authority, and trust? And there's a lot of discussion about how Google evaluates this through its algorithm, but essentially you don't need to worry about that because again, you're building content for the user. But you know, just out of curiosity, it looks at things like user profiles, social signals, things like that. There's been a lot of studies in it. The other thing that's in that quality guideline document is your money, your life. And you know, if you look at the document, they talk about things like, you know, search results, potential search results can have an impact on people's happiness, health, and wealth. So if it's having an impact, a negative impact, then you know, they want you to rate it on that guideline, I guess. So the more important one, I guess, to talk about is EAT, and you generally want to be. The concept is you want to be building as much EAT as possible. How do you do that? Well, we go back. That really goes back to, you know, building a lot of relevance in your kind of editorial content, which we'll talk about a bit later on. Another thing or concept you probably want to consider is, can you top this? I made this up, but I use it a lot at Indago. So, and just generally throughout my SEO career. So, this is an example of a search result page for lasagna recipes. Just Google the word or the topic that you're looking to kind of you know, get visibility for, and have a look at the results that come up, and ask yourself, can you top it? So if you can't if you look at, you know, a lot of you will be familiar with the website Taste. I'm sure everyone's kind of done, you know, come across Taste in the past. Most people look at recipes, but if you look at the websites and the content that ranks for this query, it's all long form. The images are like superior quality. There's a lot of video content. You'll see there's a lot of reviews, ratings, the schema applied. And often enough, the UX will just be phenomenal. You know, very fast loading websites. I'll have you know, apps and widgets and, you know, ways to kind of help you along in terms of, you know, planning a recipe. You really need to ask yourself, you know, if I want to rank for this keyword, well, in order to compete, you know, my content needs to compete in that area. So, you know, this is just a very loose way of looking at it, but, you know, just Google it and ask yourself, you know, can we do anything or add any value to the search result? I guess this is more around the anatomy of a well-optimized page. So we'll talk about these in a lot more detail coming up, but, you know, things like being hyper-relevant, including the subject in your page title. We talked about page titles in the first session. I'm going to kind of talk about it in more context today around content. You know, trying to include the subject of the keywords in your URL is another way of looking at it. Unique content is obviously very important. And yeah, building categories and subcategories, I guess, if applicable, but we'll kind of explore this in the slides coming up. So what are the individual elements on a page level that you can kind of look at? URL, title tag, meta description, heading tags, alt tags, and anchor tags. We'll talk about that now. So URLs. Rules, some rules for URLs. These are very high level rules, but a lot of your CMSs, if you're using WordPress, for example, will let you set the URL. Keywords in the URL is a good thing, but obviously you don't want to overdo it. Dynamic parameters are things like when you see you know, random numbers and or question mark equal signs in URLs. They're generally not a good thing, although it can be addressed using various other kind of technical techniques. You know, matching the obviously, you know, there needs to be, the title needs to relate to the content. Sorry, the URL needs to relate to the content that's there. And generally, you want to remove things like stop words, so and the and that sort of stuff. Probably more importantly, the title tags. So again, we spoke about this in the first session, but the title tags, you know, are within the HTML. You need to find out how you set these on your pages, but they are the pieces of text that come up in the search results, as highlighted here. there are some kind of guidelines to what you need to be doing with title tags. So here you can see generally you want to make sure that you've got a maximum of 70 characters, or what happens when you go over that. What will happen is you kind of get this thing here where Google will concatenate the word, and it doesn't look great. It can yield a bad experience. Actually, what can happen is if you don't kind of fall within that character set, sometimes Google might completely ignore what you set in the title tag, and it might choose its own title tag. So funny things can happen there, I guess. Again, you don't want to overdo the keywords. Google actually has a report in Google Search Console about uniqueness of pages. So you want to make sure that your title tags are unique from page to page. You generally want to put your more important keyword targeting at the front, and you want to write for your customers. One thing I'll say about title tags is I can't do title tags. I'm not very good at content, and it is a skill to do because you're kind of trying to get your keywords in. You want it to read really well for the user, and you've got a very kind of limited amount of character sets. It's a bit of a challenge to do. So, and you can actually measure any changes to your title, and we'll talk about description tags in a second, through Google Search Console using the CTR stat, which I'll talk about in a second. The other thing that you want to be looking at on page is your meta description tags. We generally say that you'd want to kind of keep them between 140 and 170 characters long. That's the text that comes up in this area here. These don't really have like a direct impact on rankings, but they will kind of have an impact on the click-through rate. We find that accurately describing what's on the page, having some sort of clear call to action or USP on there will help, and just kind of optimizing. We like to treat these like ad copy if you do paid search. You can see in this example the good and bad example. So I'm not going to read this out, but you can see how this example here is much more compelling than this example. I wouldn't say this is a bad example. This is definitely better. You can see the concatenation here as well. Header tags. We talked about header tags again. How to identify them, the plugins you can use to kind of figure out what's a H1 or H2 tag. You generally want to have a H1 tag per page. Again, same sort of thing there. You don't want to duplicate them from page to page. You want to try and incorporate the keywords where possible there as well. These are a very broad way of looking at it. Definitely good advice, but you'd want to kind of be understanding where your header tags are. How can you kind of optimize the content in there to both resonate for the user, but also kind of see if you can get kind of key resonance of the keywords in there, I guess. This is labeled as a bad example because when you use the tools that the plugins, you will notice that this is actually a H1 tag and that is a H1 tag, and that's generally considered bad practice. You only want to really have one H1 tag, and any subsequent heading tags or sub tags go into H2s and H3s and so forth. Images. So for images, one of the SEO best practices is to set it what's called an alt tag. An alt tag generally can be set through the CMS when you kind of put an image in. And the best practice there is to try and label the image as descriptively as you can. More important when you have your own proprietary images and you're trying to rank within image search. But generally, if you've got images on a piece of content, adding the alt tags can add real good context around the image and all content around it. So there's some great kind of guidelines there, but in terms of image alt tags, but your first kind of call would be to figure out where do you go within your CMS to actually write these in. Anchor text are the text that come up within links, so the actual visible text that's linkable. When we talk about anchor text in this context, it's more about internal links. So a great example will be the SEO migration guide. You would generally, in that example, if I had a blog post talking about SEO migration and the best practice around there, I would generally, a good idea would be to link that back to my SEO migration services page, or at least my SEO services page. What that does is it adds a lot of context and kind of pushes Google in search engine to kind of understand, the topics that you're talking about and how they relate. If that makes sense. So some guidelines there for that. I won't go through these. It's just a recap of what I spoke about in this section. Yeah, this will be available later. I'm just conscious of time. Tom, I'm just going to check. We got any questions? And how are we going?
No, we're all good, dude. We're okay for time, but yeah, just keep pushing on.
Cool. All right, so we're going to talk about measurements. Another poll. Is this our last poll or our second last poll? I can't remember. I think this is our last poll for the day. So I'm going to quickly launch that poll. Google Analytics and Search Console. How often do you use them? Let's get some answers. Launch poll.
Yeah, we can see it.
Cool. I'm just going to end that, post it. Cool. 38% both never. That's interesting. So I'm going to cover that off. Now I'm going to do some, I'll do some live walkthroughs, I guess, on both Google Analytics and Search Console. If you're looking to understand more specific stuff, yeah, just hit me up. I'll be more than happy to kind of walk you through anything specific. If you're getting serious about content, either through, work or your own stuff, you definitely want to be in both these tools. So yeah, very important platforms to be across. So the first one's Google Search Console. I'm just going to quickly.
Can you close the poll? Thanks, mate.
Yep, closed. I'll do a live walkthrough of Google Search Console. Yeah. So everyone will remember we did a live walkthrough in the first session, but we skipped over performance because I was kind of saving it for today. But you'll remember that this is an area where Google kind of tells you what's going on about your website on Google Search. It will report any errors and issues and things like that. But it also will help you monitor the performance of your website on Google search results. You do that through the performance tab, obviously. Now, this is the performance area. I'll quickly talk through some of this stuff. So you'll have your filters up here. This is how you kind of filter through the data. So we've got search type here. You'll have, generally most of the time you'll be looking at web, but if you want to look at Google search around images, videos, or news, you can do that. You can look at a date range. I'm pretty sure it goes back about 19 months now. I can't remember if that's 100% true, but somewhere in the vicinity of that. Sorry, 16 months rather. So you can go back 16 months, but this is kind of the date range that you're comparing. You can add new filters. So you can say, I only want to look at queries that are or contain pages that contain, limit it to a specific country and or device. Search appearance is more around different types of searches that can come up, and it's more around something called AMP, which is mobile accelerated pages, so more of a technical thing. So you can see, read more about that when you go into that area.
Peter, it's probably worth mentioning now, isn't it, that you probably want to filter for country, because if you're obviously results rank vastly different depending on which country you're targeting. But even though if you're just targeting Australia, you could end up ranking in lots of other countries around the world as well. So probably worth putting a country filter on before you start having a look at your data.
100%, yeah, definitely. So the thing to understand about position, which is basically where I appear in the search results, it's an average, and the average will obviously be affected by the refinement that you do up here. So the way Google works is, most people will probably realize that, if I search for something, I may most likely get a very different search result to someone else. Google's really good at personalizing results based on previous search behavior, location, context, that sort of thing. So search results are very dynamic and very user specific. Hence why, in my opinion, using something like Search Console to measure performance is probably one of the more accurate ways of looking at it. There are paid tools out there which definitely have a valid use case. They're called rank tracking software, but for the most part, this is free and will definitely suffice most use cases. So yeah, the positions are an average position, and you don't generally want to refine it down to a specific area that you're looking at. So yes, Tom was right. You want to limit your country to kind of where you predominantly rank or targeting. So you can add Australia in there in that context. I can do things like query, and then I can say, well, query does not contain, and what I'm going to do, this is our Indago account, obviously. Indago, hopefully spelled that right. Yeah. So here I'm saying, give me all queries that do not contain Indago. Apply that. And I can see, that's Indigo, so it's spelled the wrong way. But essentially what we do is we call this a non-brand report, because we filtered out anything that's brand, and we can understand how our more generic words are performing. In terms of the metrics, these should be relatively self-explanatory, but you've got clicks, so the amount of clicks that came through from the search result when someone saw your website listed on Google. An impression is they saw it, so it got served. A CTR is basically clicks over impression, so the amount of times your result was clicked versus the amount of times it was seen. So a higher CTR generally means that you're getting clicked on more versus in terms of how many times you're being seen. And then we talked about average position already. That's where you're ranking. So here we can see, this is interesting, technical SEO agency. In this time span, we have had 5 clicks, 38 impressions. The CTR was 6%. Now, average ranking in Australia across the 3 months on web was 13.6. I can also click into this, dig a bit deeper. I've now limited just to that search query, and I can go to pages, and I can understand the page that ranks for that query, and it makes sense. Technical SEO page ranks, that's exactly what I'd expect to see there. I could take away country and then understand, well, where am I kind of more visible for that search term? Australia would make sense, that sort of thing. I'm not sure if anyone's got any questions, but that's a very kind of high level understanding of Google Search Console. Obviously, there's a lot more to kind of go through. You can look at devices. We talked about how Google looks at mobile and desktop differently, so you can kind of understand that here as well. Tom, would you have anything to add there to your mind, just in case?
All good, dude. We're about half an hour left, 33 minutes left.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I'm going to kind of just try and speed it up a bit. Cool. I think I hadn't planned on going through Google Analytics. So I'll just kind of talk through this screenshot. So this is a screenshot out of Google Analytics, obviously. This is called a landing page report. We've blanked out the pages here, but generally you'd have URLs here. What you can understand here in terms of performance is the amount of sessions, a more kind of important metric around content and kind of content performance can often be in this area. So behavior relates to things like bounce rate. So a bounce rate is if a user came or a session came to a page but didn't kind of perform an action, do anything, would generally, that would be considered a bounce. You gotta be kind of careful with this because some type of content, particularly more editorial content, will naturally yield a bounce because it might be a blog post again about how to do an SEO migration. Users kind of read it and got an answer and said, thank you very much, see you later. Doesn't necessarily mean that the user didn't engage with it. So, you've got to kind of interpret these based on content. And then looking at things like, average session duration, how long did people spend on my page or website, understanding, well, did this visit yield a transaction or generate any revenue if you've got that set up, if you're an e-com store, that sort of thing. So understanding how your content is performing, Google Analytics can definitely answer that. So definitely want to be looking in there. Tom, we got any questions on that by any chance?
No, all good.
Yep. All right, cool. So that was
there is one in chat, but I'm going to answer that. It's all good.
Okay, cool. All right, so sorry, going back, we're going into more the editorial content side of things here. I believe this was an infographic we might have created at some stage as part of our own kind of content initiative, but we found this diagram to be quite useful for clients, particularly in terms of understanding different types of content that you can build in the editorial space. Obviously, this is definitely not a complete list. Content, in terms of the type of content you can create, it's kind of endless when you think about it. But this is a good slide to kind of get the creative juices flowing, I guess, and kind of articulates how different types of content can achieve different types of things. So you've got things in the entertain category, which can be more around, building awareness and that sort of thing. So you've got also, things that are closer to the conversion funnel, which might be more purchase, inspire, or more, things that are in the convince space or educate space, I guess. And depending on how you look at it, an infographic, I guess, could sit more in the entertain, educate area because, it just educates people. So it's a good way kind of to potentially kind of look at the type of content you're going to build and where it kind of sits. Got a very high level process in terms of, an idea and a suggestion on how you could potentially tackle the process of building editorial content. So we'll walk through this in a little bit more detail now. Again, what is your goal? Always think about that. Are you looking to, get organic rankings, build traffic, or attract backlinks? Understand the difference between evergreen versus timely content. I think is very important, and we see a lot of clients, we educate clients on very often. So evergreen content is kind of the type of content that is always relevant, always sits on your website. If I think about, so if I think about again, I guess a guide to SEO migration, or a guide to SEO, probably more relevant. that kind of content would be more relevant. I generally wouldn't want to be sitting in a blog, because I could probably build a whole section on my website about that. And it will generally won't be content that will change very often. Maybe SEO is not the best example, because SEO does change, but yeah, timely content, I guess, is more event driven, more kind of happens and goes, if that makes sense. So if I wanted to, we do a lot of timely content, particularly around, you know, the SEO industry or the digital marketing industry and the coronavirus. Obviously that's more timely because there's more season in the sense that hopefully corona will come and go. And yeah. Rule of thumb, always start by spying on your competitors. I don't think there's any harm in looking at what other people are doing and drawing inspiration from that. And always start by Googling it. And Googling it gives you a lot of information. One, obviously you'll see the search results, but as you start to Google a particular keyword or topic area, you'll see the suggested queries come up. That can give you a lot of information about what people are typing and kind of areas that you can potentially target. So when I start typing SEO training, I can see various different queries come up. I see a lot come up around state by state. And that might give me an idea that, you know, people are trying to do kind of more, I guess, in-person training, and maybe need to kind of target content around, here are various different training centers in various different locations, state by state. That sort of thing might be an idea, but I wouldn't be relying on it, but that can kind of lead towards that. But people also ask is a very good area to understand, what people are asking around that particular topic and where you could potentially create content. So what is SEO training? How do I start learning SEO? So forth. I talked about Chrome plugins in the first session. This is another plugin that you definitely would want to be getting your hands on. It's called SEO Minions. What it will do is it will allow you to export the search results, and probably more useful, export all the related questions to a particular query. And by export, I mean allow you to download them in a CSV, and can be quite helpful in terms of just kind of searching multiple queries and pulling down that data and kind of bringing it into a data source, if you will. So SEO Minions is that plugin. You'll get in the search result, it'll kind of hijack your search results and give you this, and you can kind of export what you need. Answer the Public is another free tool. If you Google that, that will help you kind of do keyword research around more kind of editorial based stuff. So it'll give you things like SEO agency, various different kind of derivatives. So where, why, are, what, which, who, can stem ideas in terms of the queries that you could potentially target. And that's a free tool that I definitely would suggest looking into. News. So Google obviously has a news section. You generally want to be looking at that area for more timely type content. So you want to have a look at, you know, what publications are more kind of visible in that area. So here we've got jet birding ideas. You may even want to do this to kind of understand who is more visible in that area. Maybe there's a particular editor or website that you'd want to maybe reach out to kind of build a bit of a relationship with. This is BuzzSumo is a paid-for tool, but definitely worth looking into if you are looking to kind of do this more full on, I guess. But it's not very expensive. I think it's like $20 a month, something along those lines. It can give you a lot of ideas and or data around content ideas and content that you may be looking to target or create. So I believe this this screenshot might be a bit dated. I think the interface has changed a bit, but you can analyze the impact of content around freshness, location, the types of formats that people are kind of creating, and probably more importantly, social engagement. So this is an example here of a post on Daily Mail. You can see the type of social engagement it's had across various different social platforms, the number of links that it's attracted. They generally will have their own kind of proprietary score metric as well that will help you guide you. And what this does is it can help guide what type of content is popular, maybe type of content that you could re-look at, maybe something that trended or did really well in the previous year or previous time frame that you might look at revisiting or redoing, I guess. Looking at social can be very, again, I mentioned in the previous slide looking at social, but maybe Reddit could be another area, particularly if you're looking at more specific, highly specific content. You might want to have a look at Reddit and see what kind of questions people are asking, various different threads that are quite popular, and that can give you an idea towards kind of, well, there's a market for this particular piece of content to create it and answer a particular question or educate a particular community of people. Reddit can definitely help with that. And a little tip there could be to, if you do go off there and kind of find the little pocket or opportunity there, no, there's nothing wrong with getting involved in that community and kind of posting a link and saying, hey guys, we've built a guide to this. Come and check it out. Let us know if this helps, or we can add in more information. Timeliness is very important. I'm going to quickly look at a tool called Google Trends. Just conscious of time, so I'm going to do it very quickly. So I can't remember if we did Google Trends in the previous seminar, but I'll quickly look at it. Google Trends is a great tool for understanding when keywords trend and their popularity over other keywords. So you can look at keywords, pop them in here. Again, target it to a specific country, look at a time frame, and so forth. We can, in this one, I'm going to take this out just real quickly, remove. I'm looking at a keyword called Python. Most people will probably understand Python as a snake, but I come from a programming background, and programming, there's a programming language called Python that I quite enjoy programming in. It's good to kind of understand when a particular query trends. Here we can kind of see it's relatively flat all year round, I guess you would say. Obviously, if I was to put something that kind of trends more, I don't know, end of the year, Christmas time, you would see peaks. And the November, December period, that'll be quite obvious. But what I find quite interesting here is that most people typing Python, I can have a look here and having a look at the related, the related top topics. We always spoke about broad keywords and what the kind of intent is. Well, it turns out that most people that type Python are looking for the programming language Python rather than the snake, which I thought was quite interesting anyways. And I can also understand the relationship between other search queries and or product services, in this case, programming languages. So I want to understand the popularity of Python over PHP, because Python is significantly more popular than PHP. I think I went on a bit of a tangent there because I want to kind of talk about trends, but trends can help you understand when keywords peak throughout the year and when you should sort of be planning creating that content. So obviously, if you're trying to, as a simple example, if you're trying to write a piece of content that is more time towards Christmas period, you'd obviously want to plan towards the back end of the year to kind of get that content live and do whatever you need to do to make that happen, so that it launches around about the November time period. Google Trends, BuzzSumo also has a really great tool around researching influencers. You'll look at people's social profiles and see who kind of blogs or tweets in a particular area. It could be a great way for you to kind of engage with potential influencers or people that are more prevalent in a particular area, so that you can kind of build a relationship, maybe do a collaboration piece with, maybe do a guest post with, which is a kind of a tactic around trying to build or create links, that sort of thing. I think everyone kind of understands the benefit and concept of a good old-fashioned brainstorm, but definitely don't overlook this. You would definitely want to be doing a brainstorm when you're trying to kind of create content hubs or particular kind of content strategies around a set of topic. Content formatting is really important. Most people will kind of be doing articles, but if you remember that slide I presented earlier, there's various different formats that you can kind of look at. Couple of guidelines or rules there. Articles, news stories are generally obviously lower maintenance. Videos, infographics, images, apps, widgets, that sort of thing obviously take time, cost money. So you generally want to make sure you plan those really well. A good rule of thumb and from experience is often, we'll talk about content reformatting, but is to kind of test the waters with something that's a little bit easier to create, maybe an article, and if it works out or you get a lot of performance out of it, I guess, then look at maybe reformatting into another medium that you know to kind of improve it. And yeah, just kind of be conscious of the content formatting. This is an example of content reformatting. So here we've got a guide, the ultimate guide to planning a camping trip. Had really good, a really good success rate in terms of social and links and rankings. But we were then able to kind of take that and reformat it into an infographic that we could then use for various other purposes. Maybe give out to clients, potential partners, and get some sort of link back, kudos, that sort of thing. Tom, anything you would add there by any chance, or do we have any questions?
No, we're all good, mate. All good. Yeah, 15 minutes. Looking
cool.
at the time.
I think we're kind of tracking on time.
Yeah.
Links. So Ahrefs. I think we've got some time. We can quickly go through this. I hadn't really planned to go through this, but this is more off the cuff. Since we do have time, I might just quickly log into that. Just give me a second. Tom, what do you think? Should we do Ahrefs? What do you reckon?
No, I reckon you're probably better just to keep pushing through, because maybe you could do a couple of the case studies.
Yeah, cool. Cool. All right. So I'll just quickly skim over it. Ahrefs, paid tool. You can definitely look into it. There are definitely some. It's predominantly a way of measuring backlinks, but there are some cool content things in there. Look at things like your competitors are ranking for this, but you're not, and that's because they've got that content. And that's generally called a content gap. And content gaps could be great ways to kind of understand content that you potentially want to build. So yeah, definitely check that out if you want more info. Let me know. We've already spoken about Search Console. I think one of the things I forgot to mention was Google just recently launched a Search Console. I believe it's called a content report, where they mash up your Search Console performance and analytics data, and it's still in beta, so you can see there. Just do a Google search for that. I'm pretty sure you'll find that essentially they mash up those two data points and give you a really nice report about how your content's performing. Cool. I might quickly skim over these. There's a couple of case studies, but I think one of the more interesting ones will be probably, what do you reckon, Tom? We do the Kentucky one?
I think the best job in the world's the best one. But yeah, you could do Kentucky as well.
All right, we might do the best jobs in the world.
I think this one, just a great example of using content to drive results. I'm sure everyone's probably heard of Best Job in the World campaign. Absolutely superb campaign, been copied many times over. But yeah, just a great example of how you can use, I guess, wider than the SEO type content that we've been talking about today, but how you can link different types of content and media together to produce, quite frankly, a phenomenal result.
Cool. Should I play the video, Tom? I think so. I might play the video. If you can't hear it, let me know. I think it's just quite inspirational.
Yeah, we can see it and hear it.
Who can we find for this job? Seth Yates.
We've got Eric, Annie, and Marcella here, who are all our finalists, all from BC for the best job in the world.
Search is now down to 50. Only 6 are from the United States. 2 are from right here in Los Angeles.
Every one of them is quite different in their own way, but they just have something special about them that stood out.
You're one of the 16 successful applicants for the best job in the world.
We think we've just tipped over $110 million in international publicity.
New caretaker of the islands of the Great Barrier Reef from the United Kingdom, Ben Saville. A great job. That really is a great job.
Cool. Tom, do you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, sure. A bit broader than we've been speaking about today, but a superb. Can you just pause that because that's going to go off again?
Yeah.
But a superb example of how a client has used content across multiple channels to drive results. I'd love to know the number of. Obviously, it drove huge amounts of media mentions. I'd love to know the number, and perhaps we'll look up and feed back to you guys after. The amount of links that this drove purely from an SEO perspective as well. This transcends, I guess, traditional and digital channels. And I guess one of the biggest things that this campaign did for me anyway, it was almost self-generating for its content. So sometimes we look at generating a page worth of content, but I think where this is super impressive is the amount of content and coverage that it generated from, I guess, a single idea or the single germ of an idea.
Cool.
And I think, Peter, we might just speak about one more. We've just got a couple of minutes left. Can you just go back to, it's much more boring than the best job in the world, but I think keep going back just to, yeah, visualization. Sorry, just go forward to visualization. So this is probably closer to what we've been talking about today. So we wanted to produce content for ourselves, for Indago Digital. And I think actually one of the most interesting things about this today is that I hated this idea to start with, and actually it drove some amazing results. We did keyword research. We wanted to rank for link acquisition and link building in SEO. We looked at an idea where I think it was SEO Moz had produced a periodic table for SEO. We ripped that idea off, for want of a better phrase, and refined it down to just the periodic table of link acquisition for SEO. This project cost, I think, sub $400 and drove over 100 unique referring domains. We took this idea of the periodic table of link acquisition for SEO, and then we pitched it out to a number of publications that picked it up, and then it kind of just took off from there and generated a large number of organic links for Indago's website from a really tiny amount of budget.
I think it also piggybacked off the popularity of Breaking Bad at the time. Everyone was into, so it was great timing as well, I think.
Yes. So I think it was, I think that was particularly good, but yeah, very, very good.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we did have a few case studies there, but we'll leave them in the deck, just more for inspiration purposes, I guess.
Yeah. So I think it's probably about finished now, Peter.
Cool. I want to thank everyone for their time. Again, if there are any questions that come up, or you just want to have a bit of a chit chat about any various topics that I mentioned today, just give me a call or pop me an email. Most of you will have account managers. If you are clients, obviously, don't be shy to reach out to them also and ask any questions around anything that we spoke about, either the previous session or today. I think the guys are putting on another session in 2 weeks, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Tom, around starting to go into paid search, paid media. So I definitely would encourage everyone to sign up for that. And yeah, thank you so much for everyone.
Just one final question from Phil. Do you guys still rate unlinked brand mentions as a strategy worth investing time into? Unlinked brand mentions, for anyone that doesn't know, is every month we will scrape the internet for every time a client's brand is mentioned but not linked to. And then we do outreach to try and turn those mentions into links. Yeah, definitely rate that as a tactic, Phil. It can drive some very high authoritative web links back to your client's website. And for it, if you look at it for a bang for buck for high quality links, it can really, really drive some great results.
Definitely would agree.
But yeah, thank you very much, guys. Thanks for everyone that came today. We'll send you out details of the next one. Thank you, Peter, more importantly, for presenting. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, guys.